The internal strife threatens to make an already challenging situation even more arduous. In 2014, the Obama administration faced a humanitarian crisis at the border when tens and thousands of unaccompanied minors and families with children overwhelmed patrol stations. The situation prompted a broad emergency response from the federal government that included Congress approving new resources, including additional money to house the children and a $750 aid package to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, the Northern Triangle nations where most of the migrants were coming from. The numbers of families and children this year has surpassed the 2014 total. Trump has responded by threatening to cut off foreign aid to those nations, a move experts say would only exacerbate the problem. Amy Pope, who as Deputy Homeland Security Advisor under Obama helped coordinate the 2014 response, said that crisis sparked some disagreement among agencies, including DHS, the State Department, and Health and Human Services, though she did not recall any shouting matches. Trump threatening to curtail all foreign assistance to Honduras is actually counterproductive, Pope says. All evidence shows a couple dominant reasons why people leave: violence and a lack of economic opportunity and no judicial accountability. It's what foreign assistance is meant to address. At campaign rallies and on Twitter, Trump has sought to blame Democrats and foreign leaders for the mounting number of families at the border. In private, he has summoned Nielsen to the West Wing for regular meetings, aide said. Trump is pushing for more. Man, Nielsen, yeah, better not be fucking with Trump like that. In private, he has summoned Nielsen to the West Wing for regular meetings, aide said. I hope you ain't. I'm not trying to speculate on nothing. I don't know nothing. I don't know shit, you know what I mean? I'm not part of nothing. I'm black in America. I don't know shit. That's why I read so much, you know what I mean? So, I digress, so I'm trying to start some shit, but it's not going to work there, you know what I mean? Because it don't even matter what. Trump supporters ain't going, I give a fuck anyway. Like, yo, they could literally have video right now of Donald Trump getting head in the White House right now. It could literally be a video right now of Donald Trump getting head by one of his aides' 15-year-old daughter right now. They will still vote for that man. Y'all know I'm right. He ain't even got to do the whole Bill Clinton cigar in the butthole thing. Like, he ain't even got to do all that. But, hey. Yo, Billy was one freaking dicky ass white boy, yo. Let me stop. Let me leave my boy Clinton alone, man. Let me leave my boy Clinton alone. But he still has to atone for some things, though, you know. He still ain't trying to atone for nothing. Him and Hillary, some hard-headed ass white folks. Trump is pushing for a more muscular response, and he favors sending more U.S. troops to the border. About 1,600 National Guard troops are deployed in 4 states after Trump ordered the move in the spring, according to Homeland Security officials. But DHS officials said they need more legal and legislative firepower. The vast majority of Central Americans migrants who reach the border are turning themselves into Border Patrol agents, claiming a fear of return and a desire to seek asylum. More National Guard troops and the border wall that Trump has proposed will be largely irrelevant, experts have said. By Friday afternoon, video clips showed the Hungarian migrants having made their way through Guatemala, attempting to cross into Mexico, some wading through a river. Back in Washington, one senior DHS official put the scene into perspective. We see the equivalent of a caravan across our border every day, the official said. We're catching 1,500 people a day. David Nakamura covers the White House. He has previously covered sports, education, and city governments and reported from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Japan. Josh Darcy is a White House reporter for the Washington Post. He joined the paper in 2017. He previously covered the White House for Politico, the New York City Hall, and the New Jersey Governor Chris Christie for the Wall Street Journal. Nick Miroff covers immigration enforcement, drug trafficking, and the Department of Homeland Security on the Washington Post National Security Desk. He was a post-foreign correspondent in Latin America from 2010 to 2011 and has been a staff writer since 2006. Alright, back to, the governorship in 2018-2010. In the majority of states, redistricting is done by state legislatures, meaning whichever party is in charge gets to draw the lines. Please let it be the Democratic Party, yo. Please do. Please, God. But in most states, governors also have the power to veto the maps. The last time voting districts were withdrawn was the 2010 census year. Tea Party movement, motherfucker. Hey, I gotta go piss. In the majority of states, redistricting is done by state legislatures, meaning whichever party is in charge gets to draw the lines. But in most states, governors also have the power to veto the maps. The last time voting districts were withdrawn was the 2010 census year, right as Republicans made huge gains in the 2010 midterms. That meant Republicans got the electoral advantage to withdraw the maps, and they took it. Republicans in states like Wisconsin, Texas, and North Carolina drew districts that diluted the representations of packed urban and generally more liberal cities and give more representation to more conservative rural areas. Partisan gerrymandering is being challenged in the U.S. Supreme Court with a ruling to be issued later this year. Yeah, Kavanaugh gonna have something to say about that. Ah, man. Kavanaugh is gonna have something to say about that. The 2010 redistricting has already given Republicans the upper hand politically. A 2017 report by the Brennan Center for Justice at the New York's University School of Law found that, due to the 2010 redistricting, Republicans have given themselves a 16 to 17 seat advantage in the House of Representatives that will be difficult for Democrats to overcome. People don't have choice with their congressmen right now, Inslee said. It's extremely important to prevent the gerrymandering that captured the House of Representatives. That brings us up to 2018, when Democrats are staring down their last big chance before the 2020 census to change the calculus. As Vox's Adam Prokop recently wrote, indeed, in 34 states, the governors who will be in office for the next redistricting will be elected this year. 2 more were just elected in 2017. And in 30 states, half or more of state senators whose terms extend to the next redistricting will be elected this year. Most state house members, meanwhile, serve 2-year terms and will be elected in 2020. The offshoot is that if Democrats want to reverse GOP gerrymanders and perhaps get the opportunity to do some gerrymandering of their own, they can't afford to sit around and wait for 2020. Please, I cannot tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you in my accented African upon African accent voice already, please go vote, but don't vote for the Republicans. If you see red, don't do it. Let it be blue all the way. The offshoot is that if Democrats want to reverse GOP gerrymanders and perhaps get the opportunity to do some gerrymandering of their own, they can't afford to sit around and wait for 2020. They need to make big gains in the states this year. The stakes are high and the consequences will be felt for a very long while indeed. Try to tell y'all, man. I done told y'all already. Listen. If USCIS, DHS, the White House step in, EOIR, they all step in and say, you know what, we got to get this African booty scratcher right here the fuck out of our country, deport me, I ain't mad at it. I'm going to go be my baby girl's life. Just don't kill me. I ain't mad at it. And please, if you're black and American, don't be mad at it. Don't turn my name into a model for that kind of topic. Don't let me, I mean, you can do, but all I'm asking you, you can use it for whatever the heck you want it to do, but I'm just asking you, just read 30 minutes a day and vote every year, man. Let me be gone. If I'm gone after this, I'm good. All I know is hopefully Colin Kaepernick get where I'm coming from. Hey Cap, if I'm gone, man, come holler at me at Freetown, bro. I ain't gonna be too hard to find, man. Freetown is a pretty small place. We only got 6 million people over there. I ain't hard to find. Like I told Tracy when we met, man, in the land of the Africans, I'm light-skinned. I ain't even brown-skinned. Fuck you talk about. Say that, let me stop. But I digress though. Let me stop. But yeah, man, like I'm just saying, man, I ain't tripping. Like I truly believe that I did not want to be here at this point, but I'm here because I think God designed it that way, God did it that way, or, you know. So, taking advantage of it. So, you know, I'm just saying, man, don't be mad at it. Just, the stakes are high, and the consequences will be felt for a very long while indeed. They're not bullshitting. This ain't no time for games, yo. Like that OG told them youngsters in the bus and straight out of Compton, man, y'all better gangbang the fucks out of them books, man. Y'all better gangbang the fucks out of them books, man. Better gang, man. Get that Mandela up in you. What, man? You gotta feed the mind, yo. You gotta feed the mind. Mind, body, and soul. But to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is noble in the minds that suffer, it slings in the hours of outrageous fortune. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth the separable said, I'm tired. I'm sorry, I'm tired, but I got about 40 some more minutes on this one. Let's go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Blue states can help set up a whole new set of progressive laboratories. There's another key reason the DGA wants to help get more Democratic governors elected. With Washington controlled by the GOP, more Democrats in control of states means more progressive state policies. The exact opposite is true in much of America right now because of Republican dominance in state legislatures and governors' mansions. Legislatures and governors from Texas to Ohio to New Hampshire have passed legislation to restrict abortion access, loosen gun laws, and tighten voting requirements. KKK, Jim Crow laws, that's all they did, man. While that black man was president and we weren't going out to support the man in congressional elections by voting Democratic, they just took advantage of shit. Like Trump took advantage of shit, came out and said Mexicans are rapists and murderers and he's gonna build a wall. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. This is America, man. What's wrong with you? Give me your tired and your... Nah, he don't know that though. He's racist, dumbass. At least on the West Coast, the tide is turning in the other direction. Inslee is at the head of one of the nation's most progressive states, and he just got a boost as the Washington State Senate flipped from Republican to Democrat in a special election in November 2017. Washington was already seen as a progressive state, but the fact that Democrats regained a majority in both the legislative and executive branch had a ripple effect up and down the West Coast. With Washington State Senate flipping, Democrats officially control West Coast politics. Inslee and other Democratic governors in Oregon and California have formed a so-called blue wall. See, here y'all go again, talk about buying into this whole thing about this guy's phrasing that he's using. Stop putting the same words that he's using to try to flip it. Just, the man is an idiot. Don't even use his fucking words, man. Just ignore his dumb ass. Just make sure that Congress and everything else, make him the lamest duck of the lamest duckiest presidents, yo. Just, you know what I mean? That's all it is. For real. But I got mad for a second. TRPTSD, yeah. That shit is real. That shit is real, yeah. It ain't no joke. But the cure for it, though, smoke a blunt. Not a blunt. A spliff. You can say a spliff. That really, you know, it's a nice little, you know. With Democrats dominant in the West Coast, they can aggressively pursue progressive policies, including taxing carbon and other climate measures, as well as potential moves on gun control, contraception, and abortion access. That's a big reason why more Democrats are turning their attention outward in 2017 and 2018, trying to influence policy in the states. It's the only place we can make progress in the near term, Inslee said. Governors cannot be stopped by Donald Trump. He cannot stop me from having a clean energy fund. He can't stop us from having the best paid family leave policy. We've done all these things. He cannot stop us. You're right. You're so right. You're so right. Oh, this one was from Slate, right? It was on the 17th. It says, it's under the interrogation section, right, from Slate.com. It says, why in the world is Dean Heller leading in the polls in Nevada? I know, right? What the... Yo, Nevada, man. Come on, y'all. Ain't no Democratic governor and legislature in Nevada gonna fuck with the money that's coming in the state and that's in the state. Come on now, y'all know that. But it's poor people who are hardworking ass people in that state who can't even afford to live in the state like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not right, y'all. Come on. A close read of one of of one Senate race Democrats should be winning by Isaac Chotina, October 17, 2018 at 2:35 p.m. In the past several weeks, most forecasters have lowered Democrats' odds of taking by the Senate. Many red state Senate polls have shown Republican candidates improving their positions in the post-Kavanaugh confirmation period. Perhaps heightened partisanship is the obstacle that can be overcome for Democrats who need to win in unfriendly territory. But this doesn't entirely explain Nevada, a state where the Republican incumbent, Dean Heller, appears to now have a slight lead against Representative Jackie Rosen. Nevada is a state that Hillary Clinton won, and in a Democratic year, it should be a very tough slog there for Heller. To talk about what's happening in the Nevada race, I spoke by phone with John Ralston, the editor of the Nevada Independent and an expert on the state's politics. Our conversation, which has been edited and condensed for clarity, is below. Isaac, where do you think this race currently stands and why? John Ralston. The Senate race is within the margin of error one way or another. There are a couple reasons it is so close. One is that the Nevada electorate is as polarized as the national electorate, and so the names are less important than party identification. The other is that Dean Heller has done everything he can to try to lose the race, and the reason he's still in it is that Jackie Rosen is so unknown. And they have been able to create doubts about her because she's so unknown. What has Heller done to try to lose the race? He has had every position you can imagine on repealing Obamacare. He stood with the governor here and said he couldn't do it. And then Trump publicly threatened him in a video you have probably seen that went viral, and then he voted for repeal. Healthcare is a huge issue in the election, and they have created a senator spineless meme about his position, and I think it has really hurt him. Given all this, and given how vulnerable people thought Heller was, and national enthusiasm for Democrats, isn't it surprising he isn't down? First of all, President commonly expected, of course, you national media types and your telescopic view think that Heller has been dead. I've heard this for months and months and months, mostly because he's the only Republican incumbent running in a state that Hillary Clinton won, and because he makes so many mistakes. But it just isn't that way. The race has been within the margin of error all year long, and people need to remember Heller has never lost a race. He ain't gonna look. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Like when I said you could literally be a murderer and Republicans will still support you because you're saying what they believe is. You know what I mean? They got a West Virginia guy who literally was running a campaign and won a Senate seat or some shit, a state seat from prison. White boy ass wants that. Plus, many of these recent polls are not credible polls. Isaac and Nevada is very difficult to poll. I don't think they mean much now, other than that one is ahead by a little. It's all about how you model the electorate. We will know a lot more when we have real voting numbers to go by starting Saturday, and we will know whether turnout is up or down. That's today, Saturday. It's the 20th, okay. If it is way up from 2014 here, Democrats will do well and Heller is in trouble. What do you think of the campaign Rosen has run? She's never going to be confused with a Dynamo or Margaret Thatcher in terms of her speaking ability or ability to rouse the faithful. But she's a very disciplined candidate, and I think her media campaign, with a few exceptions, has been very, very good at capitalizing on Heller's weaknesses. But this campaign is not about Jackie Rosen. It's about how her campaign has been able to amplify certain issues about Heller and create excitement about Trump on the ballot by proxy. How popular is Trump to the state? Trump's numbers here are not as bad as they are elsewhere. The polling shows he has a few points on the water, but not dramatically, mirroring Heller's numbers actually. But Heller has totally changed on Trump. He was very close to a never Trump guy in 2016, and he's now counting on this being a totally based election. So now he has completely embrace Trump. They are having a love affair. Hey, they should invite a Ted Cruz in the mix. He might happily jump in. Mike Pence gonna be the one holding the video camera. It's in the corner. I'm sure his wife will be there with him. She's with him everywhere, right? Or is it only where other women are? Or she ain't gonna be with you because it's only gonna be where men are. That's probably why he's such a homophobe, because he's in the closet still. You J. Edgar Hoover ass motherfucker. Trump is coming this weekend to try and energize the faithful, especially in rural Nevada, where if the faithful turnout is really high, it could skew the election. Has the Hispanic vote now materialized for Rosen? It's a great question, and maybe the key question for all the races in Nevada, starting at the top of the ticket. Now you see why I'm not just saying black, I'm saying black and brown, yo. The Latino vote, now we need that vote too, man. I need to go out and vote too, man. Come on, man. Especially in Nevada. I don't live in Nevada, but I know plenty of people, especially out here in LA, who got family and connections in Nevada. I mean, come on now, Henderson, you know, Reno. I mean, y'all know that. Y'all know I've met plenty of people out here since I've been out here who got a lot of connections to those areas, and it's not easy. It's not easy, yo. I'm just saying, like, y'all know. I'm just saying, so come out, man. Hispanic turnout is a big deal for the Democrats, and they have managed to really boost it in the last 3 presidential cycles. It helped the Democrats win, but it dropped precipitously in the past midterm, and they had a white power from top to bottom. I know the Rosen campaign is very aware of it, and Democrats I talked to say it is not going to be the same as 2014. They only have to get it up a few points to make a big difference, because Hillary is likely to lose if they have a high propensity of Latino voters out to vote. Please, yeah. Hey. What the hell I put this there? Where did I put this paper at? I think I threw it out. I think I threw that paper out. Never mind. I had some. Oh yeah, right here. So I usually see this paper, right? Hoy, H-O-Y, Hoy, Los Angeles. This look like it was from the 12th of last week, and she fell on the floor. I saw it on the floor like I usually don't pick it up, but it was literally folded like this. You know what I mean? Had the king on it. It was literally folded like this on the ground. So I picked it up, and I had a wild, crazy idea. I said, let me see if I can try to read it in Spanish with my background in French, since it's all from the Latin-based languages and shit like that. You know, so let's see. It's gonna be fun. En la hora del King, LeBron James vuelve a poner a Lakers en el mapa, pero el éxito no depende solo de él. By Jad Herrera, Los Angeles. Should I stop? How am I doing so far? How am I doing, man? Please, like, forgive me, but I gotta do it, man. I gotta show some love. I gotta let y'all know that I'm really serious when I believe that black and brown together could do damage to white supremacy and white privilege, yo. I truly believe that, you know what I mean? And if I gotta strain myself and try to do this, please forgive me. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I'm not trying to cuss anybody. I'm not trying to do none of that. There's a lot of, especially since the fact that I'm a Muslim, there's a lot of Latinos who will not view me in a positive light. I hope that's not the case, but I can't help but be who I am. You know what I mean? My heart is in the right place, though, if you can see that. Ain't that right, Miss Sonia? What's up, Sonia? Let me stop. Cuando la noción de que LeBron James es parte de los Lakers finalmente tomen aceptada por los seguidores del exjugado Angelino Kobe Bryant. La duda no es en lo que aportará al quinteto oro popular, sino de qué manera contribuirá el resto de sus jóvenes compañeros. Should I stop? Should I keep going? Should I keep going? I gotta draw attention to what I'm doing here, man. Should I keep going? Okay. One more paragraph. El hecho de haber adquirido a James Lada a Los Angeles un empujón gigantesco a las aspiraciones de volver a los playoffs y, ¿por qué no?, a las finales de la NBA, pero esa parte es aún por verse. Sin embargo, será el resto del elenco realmente el que decida qué tan lejos llegarán. Alright, so I'm gonna stop right there. I got a feeling that I just disrespected a whole group of people that I shouldn't have. I feel bad if I'm sorry, you know what I mean, my bad, from the deepest abysses, from my heart of hearts, my bad. Back to the slate though. They only have to get it up a few points to make a big difference. But Hella is likely to lose if they get a high propensity of Latino voters out to vote. There was all this talk about Harvey Reid's machine in the last several Nevada elections. What is the status of that machine now that he is not holding elective office? The machine is still there. Reid is only tangibly there. He has some of his people still running it, and they are very good. He still has his hand in things, but to a much lesser degree. We won't know how well the machine is operating until early voting starts, but in terms of the first stage, which is registering voters, they have done a very good job. Thanks, Harvey. They have really boosted the numbers in Clark County. That's a Democratic area of the state where they need to build a firewall. You get so many votes banked in Clark County that Republicans can't make it up in the rest of the state. We will know after 2 or 3 days of early voting whether it's working or not. Jackie Rosen's seat, Nevada's 3rd district, is competitive. Are you surprised? I think it will be very close. These things can break late, and the Democrats and the Republicans think it will be close. Republican Donnie Tarkanian, who has been on every ballot for the last 5 or 6 cycles and never won a general election, came very close to beating Rosen in 2016. And that was a presidential year, and I think the Democrats are pretty confident, but I don't think it is by any means a sure thing to them. So if you're in the Nevada's 3rd district and you're voting, you see the name Danny Tarkanian running for anything, vote for the other person. Vote for his opponents, okay? Please. I'm asking you, in this case, I'm asking you not to vote for him. Just because that seat needs to stay in a Democratic hand. Okay? There's a method to my madness here, people. That was the end of that. I got all excited for nothing. Yo, this is gonna be awesome, right? This is from WRAL.com. It says, here's a look at North Carolina's proposed constitutional amendments. August the 10th, it was updated October the 12th by Dave Henriksen, WRAL Enterprise Editor. When voters cast ballots between October 17th, that was about 3 days ago, and November 6th, in addition to choosing members of Congress, state lawmakers, county commissioners, state board members, sheriffs, and judges, they will also be asked to consider 6 proposed amendments to the North Carolina Constitution. The General Assembly voted to put the amendments on the ballot. Why they did so is open for debate. Critics say some of the amendments are there simply to encourage a larger conservative turnout on this off-year election. The Republicans now hold supermajorities in both the House and the Senate, meaning they can override any veto issued by Governor Roy Cooper. Democrats, energized by the election of President Donald Trump, would love to take control of either chamber and at the least hope to eliminate one of those supermajorities. Advocates for two of the amendments to protect hunting and fishing and to expand crime victims' rights say they are necessary. Opponents say those rights are already established and protected by state law. Two amendments that shift power from the governor to the legislature have been the subject of heated and protracted court battles, as well as a special general election session, as a special general assembly session that will now resolve until just before the deadline to get the ballots to the printers. One of these amendments was substantially rewritten when judges said the first draft was misleading to voters. 5 former governors, Democrats and Republicans, have banded together to oppose these two amendments, saying they shift the balance of power too far in favor of the legislature. But doesn't the legislature represent the people, though? Here's a quick look at the amendments as they appear on the ballot, with a brief explanation and links to the full text. Hunting and fishing, I'm not going to read into that. Y'all can handle that. Crime victims. Constitutional amendments to strengthen protection for victims of crime, to establish certain absolute basic rights for victims, and to ensure the enforcement of those rights. In short, this will give more victims of assault or felony property crimes the right to be notified of court proceedings and the right to be heard at those hearings. It would expand their right to cover juvenile defendants. The victim will be required to request these notifications. Board appointments, updated language. Constitutional amendments to establish an 8-member bipartisan board of ethics and election enforcement in the Constitution to administer ethics and elections law. These amendments will change the way the state election board is appointed. The amendments grew out of a series of lawsuits between the governor and the General Assembly, going back to former Governor Pat McCrory's administration over the division of power. Lawmakers have altered the makeup of the election board several times in recent years because of the legal wrangling, and it now consists of 9 members, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 1 unaffiliated member. These amendments will reduce the number on the board and give legislative leadership for the General Assembly's majority and minority parties the power to name members who would then be appointed by the governor. Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone with North Carolina and go to something near and dear to my heart. I was telling somebody recently that it was earlier. I was telling, like, since immigration is not part of the executive branch and not the judicial branch, you know, all that, you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to a lawyer and all that, that don't apply for immigration cases. So if you have seen this in an earlier episode, it's okay. I'm still going to read it again. So let's go. This is from Vox.com on November the 9th of 2017. A New York courtroom gave every detained immigrant a lawyer. The results were staggering, and now a dozen more cities are getting on board. Omar Sihaga has been in the U.S. for 52 years. He is a legal permanent resident with 3 children. Yeah, green card holders for life. What's up, dog? What up, O? What up, Omar? What up, O? Say that, let me stop. Us legal permanent residents, you know what I mean? Green card holders. That's what that means. Say, I'm an alien like Gonzalez. What up, Weez? Weezy, baby. Please say the motherfucking baby. If you don't see me in the black, I ain't trying to hide. I blend in with the hood and camouflage. Bandana tied. Every time she hear my name, she go whoop. Say that, let me stop. What's up, man? What's going on though, man? Everything good? I heard you had a birthday coming up. Your birthday just passed or something. So what's up, man? But can you tell your fan base to go out and vote? Ask them to read a book and go out and vote. Please? Please, man. I'm not coming at you like I'm coming at Kanye. Kanye is lost deep in the abysses of Kardashian double X chromosomeness. You know what I mean? So he's lost in that geyser. You aren't. You're still with the family, you know what I mean? You're still with Kirk Franklin and the family and them. Omar Sihaga has been in the United States for 52 years. He is a legal permanent resident with 3 children. He had never been to prison, he said, before he was taken into ICE detention, faced with the loss of his green card for a misdemeanor. His brother tried to seek out lawyers who could help Siaga, but all they offered, in his words, were high numbers and no hope. Hughes Immigration Law. Attorneys J. David Hughes, Attorney Practice Limited to Immigration in Virginia. Respond to via address such and such and such, HughesImmigrationLaw.com. Dear Mr. Alfred, yada yada. This letter was written on May the 29th of 2015. And it was in reference to my master hearing on July the 28th of 2015, a day after your first birthday, you know what I mean? It says, Dear Mr. Barr, you have asked if I would undertake your case now pending the above master hearing. I have gone over your file and looked at, among other items, your sworn statements at Dallas Airport on March the 1st of 2014. I also viewed the possession of marijuana conviction in New York on March the 25th of 2010. There could be an argument to this offense, although the Homeland Security will say this rendered you inadmissible when you returned from your overseas trip, since you received your legal permanent residency as you first entered the U.S. in 1998. It might be difficult to prove that it was under 30 grams if you did not have some document showing the amount, as the police might not have the amount in their document. However, this is immaterial because the sale of marijuana conviction in New York when the public defender told you to plead guilty in 2009. It is considered an aggravated felony by United States CIS, by USCIS, even though it is a misdemeanor. So, regularly under regular law it's a misdemeanor, but just under U.S. immigration law, it is an aggravated felony to just possess marijuana, you know what I mean? So that's what happened. That's why, if anything, that's the justification, if anything, for having wanted to deport my dumb ass. But, you know what I mean? I don't stay high through like maybe 60% of everything I've done here. So it's okay. Have I sounded like it is making me commit aggravated felonies? Maybe my mind is aggravatingly, feloniously coming at white supremacy, but you shouldn't come at me for that though, but you know. I digress though. Yet you are therefore considered inadmissible under 212A2AI Article 2. Further, you do not qualify for a 212H waiver because of the aggravated felony. It is my regret that I cannot assist you with your immigration court case in Arlington, since I don't believe you have a remedy for relief. A drug sale is sudden death and negates all forms of relief, including voluntary departure. Agreement to leave with return after 1 year. Respectfully, J. David Hughes, Esquire. That was awesome. I just had to touch on that real quick. Oh yeah, by the way, I was caught with way less than 30 grams. So, but fun times. Like when I say this dude right here, I had got all the paperwork I needed. I got my deposition copy. What happened in New York? I got my court, how much I paid, like all that shit. All that shit is there. I got all that shit. This man still said he can't take the case, but oh yeah. Now we're gonna see though. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see how that plays out. His brother tried to seek out lawyers who could help Siaga, but all they offered, in his words, were, quote, high numbers and no hope. No guarantee, in other words, that they'd be able to get him out of detention for all the money they were charging. Yo, Officer Choi, I know I've probably said this and thanked you already before, but I gotta thank you, man. You are such a blessed man to the point where you recognize that, yes, I had dealt with that, but I'm so glad that I had developed that understanding at that point that if something has happened already, why lie about it? You know what I mean? Be honest about it, because at the end of the day, when you lie about it, you only make it worse. You know what I mean? So, but hey, that's neither here nor there though. But man, I could have literally coming back that night, because after I left Freetown on February 28th of 2014, after I left Freetown that night and I got to, and we stopped over at London, I think, because I came with British Air. We stopped over at Heathrow and then ended up in Dallas that night. That customs agent, that DHS guy could have literally taken my green card and detained me, but he didn't, because he knew it was within his discretion and I wasn't that threat, and I'm really not, you know what I mean? So I don't want people to blame him or say he's the reason that I'm doing this now. He let me, nah. The man, yes, the man did what he was supposed to do as an American. Point blank, period. You know, if hands and buts about that. It doesn't matter where on the political spectrum you fall on it, especially if you fall on the Republican side of the political spectrum. It doesn't matter. The man is not responsible for anything. The same God you believe in is the same God I believe in, the same God that Jew believes in, the same God this man believes in, that man believes in, that man believes in, the same God. Yeah, I believe it's only one God, man. Made it this way. If you didn't want me to do this, you should have gone and voted for Trump. Put it that way. So I'm blaming y'all 62 million ass motherfuckers. You know what? It's not even Trump's fault that I'm going through TRPTSD. It's y'all motherfuckers' fault. Fuck all that. I'm blaming yeah, 62 million a yeah, who went and voted for this dumbass. And all these Republican supposed leaders. I digress. Then he met lawyers from Brooklyn Defender Services, part of the New York Immigrant Family Unity Project, an effort to guarantee legal representation for detained immigrants. They demanded only one thing of him, he recalls. Omar, you've got to tell us the truth. I'm trying to tell you, man. Yo. Well, hey, Mama Jello. No vex for me for this, but I'm trying to tell you, man. Maybe now the sign down there, why make you decide for go along, say, let you put say that you single by the application. You know what I mean? But hey, I'm sorry. Now don't beat me over the head. Don't. I know you probably shaking your head, sucking your teeth right now, looking, listening to me saying this right now. But at the same time, though, don't know. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, just if it's one thing I've learned through whatever legal bullshit I've been through in my time in these days, trust me, I've had my share of shit. God been looking out for me from day one, yo. You know, like I'm sitting here doing what I do and all that, what people don't even know. Like, if you knew what I've been through, you'd probably be like, yeah, man, you know what I mean? But hey, we're gonna leave that one on that. I once thought I needed shoes till I met a man with no feet, right? So, I'm gonna leave it at that. You know. They demanded only one thing of him, he recalls. Omar, you've got to tell us the truth. But Siaga's access to a lawyer in immigration court is the exception. Yeah. There is no right to counsel in immigration court, which is part of the executive branch rather than the judiciary. Often, an immigrant only shout at legal assistance before their march in front of a judge is the pro bono or legal aid clinic that happens to have attorneys at their courthouse. Those clinics have such limited resources that they try to select only the cases they think have the best shot at winning, which can be extremely difficult to ascertain in a 15-minute interview. Try to tell ya, man. And like, you have a greater chance of getting pro bono representation if you're detained. That's the kicker. Like, that's one of the biggest problems I always encountered. Like, I have gone to court about maybe 3 or 4 times. I have had to transfer my case to Los Angeles after I moved to Los Angeles, you know what I mean? Because first my case had to be moved from, because I actually traveled to Dallas because the ticket was cheaper coming to Dallas instead of at BWI. And I had to transfer my case to Maryland because I lived in Maryland. And I found that out because some lawyer, some shifty ass lady was trying to give me the runaround through the system, but I still had to pay like $125 in consultation fee. She advised me to ask the judge in Virginia to have my case moved to Maryland because I live in Maryland. So that happened. That took, every time something happened, it took at least a year or some for me to have to go back to court, except since I moved to LA, it's been a little more closer, maybe like 4 or 5 months since. 4 or 5 months between court dates and shit like that. So, but long story short though, it's a lot easier for someone to get, especially if you're a young child and if you got family, you know what I mean, I guess it's a lot easier, but the whole system is jacked. Like, the whole immigration system is jacked, you know what I mean? It's just, and you might be thinking, what's that got to do with you as a black person in America? But it matters. For better or for worse, it matters. You know what I mean? America is a melting pot. We have to keep it unapartheid-like. Just saying. But advocates and local governments are trying to make cases like Siaga's the rule, not the exception. Soon, every eligible immigrant who gets detained in one of a dozen cities, including New York, Chicago, Oakland, California, and Atlanta, will have access to a lawyer to help fight the immigration court case. The change started at Varick Street. The New York Immigrant Family Unity Project started in New York City in 2013, guaranteeing access to counsel for detained immigrants. According to a study released Thursday by the Vera Institute for Justice, which is now helping fund the representation efforts in the other cities under the auspices of the Safe Cities Network, the results were stunning. With guaranteed legal representation, up to 12 times as many immigrants have been able to win their cases, either being able to get legal relief from deportation or at least able to persuade ICE to drop the attempt to deport them this time. So far, cities have been trying to protect their immigrant populations through inaction, refusing to help with certain federal requests. Giving immigrant lawyers, on the other hand, seemingly makes the system work better, and if it works, it could leave the Trump administration, which is already upset with the amount of time it takes to resolve an immigration court case, very frustrated indeed. The Department of Justice, which runs the immigration court, did not respond to a request for comment. Immigration court is supposed to give immigrants a chance for relief. In reality, it depends. As federal immigration enforcement has ramped up over the past 15 years, nearly every component of it has gotten a sleek bureaucratic upgrade, a boatload of money, and heightened interest and oversight from Congress. But immigration court has been overlooked as everything else has been built up around it. The reason is simple. Chronologically, most immigrants have to go through its immigration court after being apprehended and before being deported. But bureaucratically, immigration courts are run by the Executive Office for Immigration Review, EOIR, that's what I was talking about earlier, housed in the Justice Department instead of by the Department of Homeland Security. And when it comes to money and bureaucratic attention, that makes all the difference in the world. From the outside, the striking thing about immigration court is how slow it is. Lawyers already report their hearings for those apprehended today as scheduled for 2021. That's also the Trump administration's problem with it. The federal government is sweeping up more immigrants than it did in 2016, but deporting few of them. But it doesn't seem that way from the inside to an immigrant who doesn't have any idea what's going on, especially one who's been kept in detention. This is the scene that Peter Markowitz accustomed himself to as a young immigration lawyer at the Varick Street courtroom in New York. People brought in shackles with their feet and hands shackled to their waists, often not understanding the language of the proceedings, having no idea of the legal norms that were controlling their fate, being deported hand over fist. I know he's not exaggerating. In my first morning watching his immigration court proceedings in Minneapolis in 2008, I saw at least 10 detainees get issued deportation orders before lunch. Man, I seen that too, man. I didn't know it was that bad till I got involved in it starting in 2015. The first time I went to court for anything immigration related was 2015. I came back in 2014, you know, so. Now before then, she was all dealing with, you know what I mean, the regular black man court, you know what I mean, the regular black man in the white man court, rather, you know. We're going to get to that in the intro. You know what I mean? So I'm going to put my business out there. And whatever else Russian hackers find from my maybe 4.7 million emails that I've deleted over the last 18 years, let them have fun with it. I saw at least 10 detainees get issued deportation orders before lunch. Almost none had lawyers. Sometimes the judge will pause and explain to the detainee in plain English and what was really going on. And she did not have to. And sometimes she wouldn't bother. In theory, there are two parts to an immigration court case. The prosecution, ICE attorneys, has to show that an immigrant is removable, that he either has no legal status in the U.S. or that he has done something that allows the government to strip his legal status from him, and that he doesn't qualify for any form of immigration relief, which can mean formal legal status or any form of protection from deportation. But without a lawyer, good luck figuring out what any of those forms of relief even means, much less whether you qualify for them. The idea that somebody who is not trained in the law, who may or may not be trained in English, would have the capacity to assess whether they might be eligible for asylum or withholding of removal or protection under the Convention Against Torture or the Violence Against Women Act or Special Immigrants Juvenile Status, Markowitz breaks off, having made his point. There is virtually no layperson who would have the skills to make those assessments on their own. Even if the cases can be appealed, they may not really be reviewable. The Department of Justice has no board The Department of Justice has a board that's supposed to consider immigration appeals. Though since the Bush administration, it's often issued summary judgments rather than full reviews. Another appeal takes the case to the Federal Circuit Court for that region. Well, you got that's been stacked with Republican judges. That's been stacked with Republican judges that believe that it shouldn't be any immigrants. It should just be white people in America. Like, man. Another appeal takes the case to the Federal Circuit Court for that region, which can overhear the case and so has to rely on the findings in the original court proceedings. A lot of federal judges are deeply concerned about the immigration court system, to say the least. In 2007, Judge Robert Katzman of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which at the time was getting about 2,000 immigration appeals per year, delivered a lecture explaining that without effective counsel in immigration court, he and his judges were not getting a legal record they could rule on. It was distorting the development of the doctrine, Markowitz explained. The biggest problem was representation for detainees who couldn't afford lawyers. So New York, with some funding from Vera, stepped in. Starting in 2013, every client at the Varick Street Immigration Court had access to an NWIFUP attorney. Nah. When immigrants have time to build cases, they can actually qualify for relief. Omar Siagha's lawyer, Andreas Saent, figured out quickly that Siagha qualified for cancellation of removal. He had been in the United States for more than 7 years, and being a green card holder meant his single misdemeanor wasn't enough to disqualify him from relief. But it will still be up to the immigration judge to actually give it to him. So Sanz and Siagha had to persuade the judge that Siagha's case was so compelling and his family's need was so great that he was worth an exercise of favorable discretion. Get all the records, talk to his family, get all the dates from his original visa signs and recount. Provide evidence of his life, his close relationship with his daughter, now 8 years old, his efforts to help his elderly mother, document his medical history, his severe brain injury, the medications he had to take while in detention. Get every document from every year of your life, Sanz said, and show the judge that you deserve it. He's been here 52 years and raised 3 daughters. I'm just saying, man, that man, ain't no way you raised 3 daughters in 52 years in the United States without being a hard-working ass person. No way. It don't matter what color skin you are. You could be pink, white, orange, blue, you could be any nationality in any nation, anywhere. You could be Irish, you could be Irish Catholic, and you could be a white Anglo-Saxon racist ass KKK ass motherfucker. You're 52 years of, you lived here 52 years. Don't raise 3 daughters. You're a hard-working ass motherfucker. Yeah, I said it. It took months, but they were finally able to present what science described as a full foot-long stack of papers put in front of us to the judge. The courtroom was packed. The local activist group Make the Road New York had taken up Sianga's case, and he won. You feel so small in court with all the things going on, you don't really understand, says Sianga now. It felt a little more strength when you see people there for you to help you because they know that you're not going to mess up. The expertise to figure out what relief an immigrant might qualify for and the time to pull together the strongest case is the point of guaranteed counsel, and it's working in New York a staggering amount of the time. Without representation, only 4% of immigrants have been able to win their cases at verdict. Of the cases that New York if up closed during its first 2 years, it won 24% of the time. And that number, as Markowitz points out, is deeply misleading because the cases that succeed often takes the longest to finish and were therefore less likely to finish before the Vera study end date in June 2016. When Vera researchers built a model of what made an immigrant most likely to prevail in court, either because he got relief or because the government essentially dropped its case against him, and then ran the pending case to that model, they found that 77% of the pending case were likely successes. Markowitz confirmed anecdotally that the results over the years since the study stopped recording data seems about as successful as they expected. If that project is correct, New York if up cases result in immigrant victories 48% of the time. As Oren Woods, director of Vera's Institute Center for Immigration and Justice, puts it, that means that of every 12 immigrants who are winning a victory right now, 11 will have been deported without a lawyer. That finding challenges a widely held assumption about immigration court, that most immigrants who go through it don't qualify for the type of protection that Congress has laid out for particularly compelling cases. The Vera finding implies that, in fact, many immigrants do deserve relief as Congress and the executive branch has established it, but that hundreds of thousands of them have been deported without getting the chance to pursue those claims. Taking Representation National. Elizabeth C. Brown, a member of the Columbus City Council, found herself with a problem many local officials have confronted in the Trump era. The city's immigrant community was mired in fear and uncertainty over the president's rhetoric and increased ICE activity. And city officials couldn't actually tell them it was okay because city officials couldn't prevent deportations. To the contrary, ICE hyped raids in cities it considered sanctuaries. They're still trying to use those words to try to get xenophobic people to go vote. I'm sorry, my voice ain't going nowhere. I just gotta get some coffee, brush my teeth and all that. We get on that. I gotta finish this stuff. I am a local policymaker. I can't actually change federal immigration law, Brown says. We were left to consider what are the things that we can do to really help immigrants and refugee communities here in Columbus feel safer, feel more secure, feel like they're truly able to thrive, ? Her research led her to the New York program. Conveniently, at the same time, the Vera Institute was offering grants to other cities who wanted to start funding immigrant representation. Columbus was one of the cities selected, so were Atlanta, Austin, Baltimore, Chicago, Dane County, Wisconsin, the city of Oakland, and Alameda County in California, Prince George's County, Maryland, Sacramento, and Santa Ana, California. 12 cities and counties plus New York, in what Vera is calling the Safe Cities Network. Those cities cover millions of immigrants, both unauthorized immigrants and legal immigrants who are at risk of losing their status. Not all of those immigrants will get detained or find themselves in need of lawyers, but the program's supporters hope they'll be reassured anyway. I think part of the feeling of fear in immigrant communities, Brown said, is tied to the hopelessness of defense in court proceedings. If New York is any indication, the effect of legal representation will end up trickling down even to immigrants in cities that are not providing free lawyers, by creating precedents in federal courts that are enforced by what's actually going on in immigration court. In the Second Circuit, New York, if up, advocates have won rulings that require all immigrants to be eligible for bond after a certain amount of time in detention, and that requires the government to consider an immigrant's ability to pay when setting bond. They've appealed and won cases that made small violations of the Controlled Substance Act an automatic deportable offense. If marijuana wasn't part of the Controlled Substance Act, I would not have probably needed to do this. I would not have been in limbo for me to be in a position to use, like Ernie Johnson said, timing and luck. Never underestimate the value of timing and luck. You know what I mean? That's going to make sense soon. By the time you're listening to this, you have 14 days, maybe 16 days, maybe 15 days, maybe 13 days, maybe 12 days, maybe 9 days to go vote. I hope you're registered already, you know what I mean? Some states might have late registration, but I doubt it. I hope you're registered already. If you are, still find out if you can and go vote. I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you don't vote for no Republican. Up and down the ballot, don't vote for no Republican, y'all. Don't. We gotta kick those crazy ballers out of town. Let them get so mad that they want to make America great again trip back to their motherlands of Europe. Scandinavia is open back for y'all, you know what I mean? Have fun. They got nothing but hockey over there anyway, so, you know, I'm sorry. A more just immigration court might not be a more efficient one, and Trump and Jeff Sessions are prizing efficiency above all. This is according to Peter Markowitz and George Katzman. Exactly how the judicial system is supposed to work. We have a functioning justice system for the first time ever in any immigration court in the country, Katzman said of New York. The federal government does not agree. In a speech to immigration judges last month, Jeff Sessions attacked dirty immigration lawyers who dragged out cases and warned that the immigrant court backlog was unacceptable. Rumors persisted that Sessions is considering setting performance metrics that would evaluate immigration judges based on how many cases they've completed. The quickest way to complete a case is to get the immigrant to agree to deportation. The more immigrants seek relief, the longer cases are going to go. And NYIFUP's, yo, those initials sound so wonky when you say that. NYIFUP, yo, those sound, I'm sorry. And New York, if up, data shows that the very strict courthouse really is less efficient. So New York, if up lawyers and many judges, that's not a problem. They don't want to deport people who are legally eligible for protection, even if that's more efficient than giving them a chance in court. They see effort to speed up the court process for its own sake as undermining due process. For immigration hawks, though, due process has become a smokescreen for dragging out cases as long as possible in hopes that the government will give up. The Trump administration has already directed the ICE prosecutors in New York and everywhere else to stop closing immigration cases, to stop fighting the hardest to win cases every bit as hard as every other case. In the short term, this will make immigration court cases longer. Ultimately, the theory is it will start convincing immigrants they don't have any options and take the deportation options. And also, it will keep them longer in detention centers that are really mini prisons, you know what I mean? So, like, you know. If the administration starts pressuring judges to move cases through more quickly, Safe Cities Network's members insist that immigrants will still be in better shape if they have guaranteed access to lawyers. Without representation, Markowitz points out, you would have those same pressures, and you would have even fewer chances to prevail. That will make life even tougher for immigrants who live in cities that aren't funding lawyers in immigration court. But it could, if the programs in Columbus and elsewhere take off, persuade more cities that the best way to defend immigrants against Trump is to send someone to represent them in court. Back to Eldridge Cleaver's Solo Nice. Garvey, who in the first quarter of the century sparked the Black Mass movement, based in America but international in scope and potential, was cast into federal prison and then exiled to England. W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the intellectual giants of the modern world, was silenced and isolated in America as viciously and effectively as the racist regime in South Africa has silenced and isolated such leaders of the black masses as Chief Albert Luthuli, or as the British in Kenya once silenced and isolated Jomo Kenyatta. After attempts to cast him into prison on trumped-up charges had failed, Du Bois went into exile in Ghana and later renounced the bitter citizenship of the land of his birth. Paul Robeson was at the apex of an illustrious career as a singer and actor, earning over $200,000 a year when he began speaking out passionately in behalf of his people. Unable to balance the luxury of his own I'm only making like $14.53 an hour when I'm deciding to speak out passionately about in behalf of my own people. You know what I mean? I'm not making $200,000 a year. I'm only, so the good events in my job, I make commission. You know what I mean? I got a part-time minimum wage, $13.25 an hour. So, but you can't really combine those two and come out to 27 something, because it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. I've tried it plenty of times in the last 15 years. It doesn't. You know. I digress, so I had a thought when I read that. You know. Paul Robeson was at the apex of an illustrious career as a singer and actor, earning over $200,000 a year when he began speaking out passionately in behalf of his people, unable to balance the luxuries of his own life with the squalor of the black masses from which he sprang and of which he was proud. The response of the black masses to his charisma alarmed both the Uncle Toms and the white power structure, and Paul Robeson was marked for destruction. Through a coordinated, sustained effort, Robeson became the object of economic boycott and character assassination. Broken financially and heartbroken to see black Uncle Toms working assiduously to defeat him and keep their own people down, Robeson's spirit was crushed, his health subverted, and his career destroyed. By crushing black leaders, while inflating the images of Uncle Toms and celebrities from the political world of sports and play, The mass media was able to channel and control the aspirations and goals of the black masses. The effect was to take the problem out of a political and economic philosophical context and place it on the mystic level of goodwill, charitable and harmonious race relations, and good sportsmanlike conduct. This technique of Negro control has been so effective that the best known Negroes in America has always been and still are the entertainers and the athletes. This is true also of white America. That's why it was a fucking shock to them when a black man, an educated black man, rose up to become leader. He didn't have to dribble or sing or dance his way into it. The tradition is that whenever a crisis with racial overtones arise, an entertainer or athlete is trotted out and allowed to expound a predictable conciliatory interpretation of what's happening. The mass media rushed forward with grinding cameras and extended microphones as though some great oracle was about to lay down a new covenant from God, when in reality, all that has happened is that the blacks have been sold out and cooled out again. One more time, boom. One more time, boom. When the question of segregation in the armed services arose during the 1940s, the then heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Louis and Louis Satchmo Armstrong, who was also noted for blowing a trumpet, were more likely to be quoted on the subject than A. Philip Randolph or W.E.B. Du Bois. And more recently, at the peak of a nationwide epidemic of sit-ins and demonstrations, Attorney General Robert Kennedy called together a group of influential Negro entertainers and athletes to meet with him in secret, to get the message from the man and carry the gospel back to the restless natives. I told y'all, man, Eldridge was harsh in his analysis and criticism, but I can feel him. As a brother 50 years ago, 55 years ago, I can feel where he was coming from with it, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. He was kind of a man ahead of his time who fell into the trap he won people off eventually later in his life, but he was a man that saw some things from a point of view that the white man, especially by then, did not want him seeing it through, you know, but still. It actually seemed possible to this intelligent enforcer of the establishment will that Queen of the Mellow Mood Lena Horne and Harry Belafonte, quarterbacked by James Baldwin, were qualified not to say, quote, willing, which they want, to say or do something to make the black and white hordes of insurgents freeze for a cool enough period. Obviously, the move made sense to Kennedy. It was worth trying because Kennedy knew that it was based on a solid tradition which had worked for years. But time had changed, and fundamentally Kennedy's attempt to cool out was greeted with hoots of scorn and contempt from Negroes, entertainers and athletes included. Just as funny man Dick Gregory got himself shot trying to cool off revolting Negroes in Watt, the celebrities knew that their standing in the black community, which suddenly had become important to them, could easily be destroyed if the impression got out that they were cooperating in an Uncle Tom cool-out this late in the game. The stakes were growing higher and Negroes everywhere were becoming eager and anxious to bet their lives against the status quo. The stupidity of the Uncle Tom cool-out reached perhaps its most grotesque incarceration when, after Negroes had rioted and burned in Harlem, the black friends of the white power structure issued a pamphlet with the headline, "Cool it, baby." But proof that the power structure never learns can be found in the ludicrous actions of the wheels within wheels who rule Los Angeles. After the biggest, most violent Negro uprising since the Civil War, the burning of Watt, the blind tradition-bound reactionaries of Los Angeles sought to placate the aroused Negro community by appointing John Roseboro, a baseball player, ace catcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yo, what's up, Dodgers? Y'all didn't try to go to the World Series, ain't y'all? Or did y'all just play bullshit like that so y'all could just play Game 7? but I guess we're going to find out today. To the position of consultant on community relations, one of his tasks being to spread, quote, goodwill between Negroes and Chief Parker's police department. It is against this background of the traditional role of the Negro entertainer and athlete in racial crises and the rebellion against that tradition that the Muhammad Ali Floyd Peterson fight for the World Heavyweight Championship must be viewed. The Muhammad Ali Peterson fight. It is tempting to say that the Muhammad Ali Floyd Peterson fight was an internal affair of the Negro people. But how could that be? If it is true that both fighters and the boxing game itself, like everything else in America, are more or less owned and controlled by whites, the fight was ideologically a pivotal event, reflecting the consolidation of certain psychic gains of the Negro Revolution. However, the diplomatic fiction of the internal affair, no longer operative in international politics, is also inoperative here. Both black and white America, looking on, were sucked into the vortex of the event, feeling somehow a profound relationship to what was being enacted in their ring. They knew that a triumph and a defeat was taking place, with consequences for America, transcending the fortunes of the two men squaring off in the ring to test their strength. The simplistic version of the fight bandied about in the press was that there was a, quote, white hope and a, quote, black hope riding on this fight. The white hope for Patterson victory was in essence a counter-revolutionary desire to force the Negro, now in rebellion and personified in the boxing world by Ali, back into his, quote, place. The black hope, on the contrary, was to see Lazarus crushed, to see Uncle Tom defeated, to be given symbolic proof of the victory of the autonomous Negro over the subordinate Negro. The broad support for Muhammad Ali among Negroes had nothing to do with the black Muslims' racist ideology. Even the followers of the late beloved Malcolm X, many of whom despised Muhammad Ali for the scurvy remarks he made about the fallen Malcolm, nevertheless favored him over Patterson as the lesser of two evils, because Ali was more in harmony with the furious psychic stances of the Negro today, while Patterson was an anachronism light years behind. In time of war, in the very center of the battle, the man of peace cannot command the ear of his people, and he loses ground to the man of war. The revolutionary rage in the black man's soul today, which boiled over and burned was to the ground, means nothing if it doesn't mean